chose CS because I feel like CS as a field is extremely broad, and there's so many things, so many cool things you can do with it, and there's just no way that there's nothing that is interesting. So I think I'll definitely find something that everyone can find something that they'll really enjoy doing.
Hi, my name is Juna, and currently I'm a second year studying CS and cognitive science at Berkeley, and I'm also an instructor at Nextstream. And one reason or one sentence for why I chose CS is because I just found it really interesting and fun to do, and I just found myself being able to work on it for like hours on end without getting tired, unlike a lot of other subjects that I had to learn about in school. Yeah.
Tina, I'm a second year computer science student at UCLA, and I was a former instructor at Nextstream Institute. I chose CS mainly because I took AP Computer Science in high school, and I really loved the problem solving aspect, the logical thinking. So it's really satisfying to be able to solve problems in the world using computer science.
I'm a second year at Stanford currently, and also former instructor at Nextstream. I chose CS because I thought it was a really interesting field, like with problem solving and the diverse fields like Taigen and Jun and Tina have said, but also because I think that a lot of our future is going to be finding the field pretty foundational for like technological advancement. And I just think it's really cool that I can make an impact by pursuing that field, especially with artificial intelligence and other subfields like that. So I think, like Taigen said, people can find their niche in CS and make an impact.
Sorry about that. Quick intro, I'm Caitlin. I studied mathematics with specialization in computer science at UC San Diego, and I graduated last year, so class of 2020, and I'm currently a software engineer at Facebook. The reason that I chose my major was because my dad is a math teacher, so he has been engaging me in math ever since I was like a kid, and it's just been a really big part of my life growing up, and I love problem solving, so it just felt really natural for me to choose my major.
Hello, I'm Mike. I graduated from UC Berkeley last year, the major in data science and minor in CS. I interned at Nextstream until pretty recently, and now I'm applying for graduate school.
So the first question is, what's the requirements to declare a major? At UCLA, when you are admitted, okay, Taigen and Tina, are you becoming automatically a CS or CE student? Or there are requirements to fill before you declare a major? Okay, Taigen?
Yeah, sure. So at UCLA, I believe when you're admitted, you basically get whatever major you applied for, you basically just get that. They'll tell you right away, are you eligible for CS? And then I believe you just basically declare it right away. And then I believe the process for changing majors within the engineering school is also not super difficult. But yeah, you get to declare that right away, I believe.
Oh, that's why we all love UCLA. Wow, no risk. Yeah, very good. And Tina, any additional comments?
Yeah, so I actually came into UCLA as a computer science and engineering major, so CSE. And so within the School of Engineering, it's very easy to switch. You just have to like fill out a form and meet some very minor requirements, such as getting like a B- or something in some certain classes. But I switched into computer science from computer science and engineering. But if you want to switch into a School of Engineering from another school, it's a little bit harder there. So you have to meet a lot more requirements, like a GPA requirement or passing some other certain classes.
Okay, that's good. So what Tina's saying that switching major in School of Engineering is easy, but switching between different colleges at UCLA is a little bit difficult, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so the same question go to Juna and Mike at the UC Berkeley side. What's the challenge there?
Okay, yeah, I can start. So for Berkeley, our CS major is in the College of Letters and Science. And so when you apply, you basically apply to the college itself. And when you're accepted, you get accepted as an undeclared student. So for the College of Letters and Science, you come in as undeclared, and then you have to complete a few courses and get a certain average grade in order to declare like any major really. But for CS, there's 3 main courses that you have to take, which are CS 61A, 61B, and CS 70. And you need an average grade or you need an average GPA for those 3 courses of a 3.3. And then after that, the process is really easy. You just fill out a form and then you process it and you're declared.
Okay, probably that's why a lot of people have the perception of Berkeley being difficult. Okay, that's great. Okay, and Mike, how about DS, data science as a major?
DS is actually much easier to get into because it's the same situation where you just apply letters and science and go in undeclared, but you don't need the 3.3. I think you only need a 2.0, like most of the other majors. So
Okay.
It's not capped.
Okay. So yeah, for folks that they have more humanities majors, but they want to get into a little bit of the STEM, probably DS is do you recommend DS? Like for
DS
double
is
major?
still mostly STEM though. It's like might be a little more on the stats side, but it's still a lot of CS, and you have to take a lot of lower div and upper div CS. So there's not
Okay.
that much humanities actually.
Okay, I got it. It's very hardcore CS, the STEM oriented. Okay, thank you, Mike. And Amber, I know, very difficult. I just watched the movie yesterday. I recommend everybody watch it, documentary, Try Harder, about Lowell High School, and everybody want to get into Stanford. So Amber, your turn.
Yeah, actually for declaring CS at Stanford, it's pretty easy. So you get into the school undeclared, and you can declare anytime, even in your first or second year. You're required to declare by sophomore spring though, and they'll remind you for that. But yeah, there's no like classes or specific requirements in order to declare. You just fill out an online form anytime in your year, and you can also change majors whenever you like as well. So yeah, it's fairly straightforward for that particular declaration.
Okay. Very flexible school, but you admit very limited number of students. So okay. Right. And Caitlin, UCSD, and a lot of our this year from CCA students are going to UCSD. So a lot of parents and the students are online.
Okay, yeah. At UCSD, I feel like it's pretty similar to UCLA. When you first get admitted to UCSD, you're either admitted directly as a CS student or you're not. And you have up until, end of your sophomore year to declare a major. And if you weren't declared as a CS major when you were admitted, you will have to apply. The way it works is a little different from UCLA, though. You do take a handful of underdiv classes. You have to have at least a 3.3 GPA, and then you can apply. And when you apply, you're entered into a lottery system, and they choose several people out of the lottery by random. But if you were admitted as an engineering student at UCSD, it's also really easy to change into CS. So it sounds like it's pretty similar to UCLA, but we just have like a weird lottery system there. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a lower division class first, and then upper division. Taigen and Tina, UCLA, lower division class size. How big for CS?
Okay, I guess I can go first. So I think that our CS classes for lower div, I'm actually having a hard time remembering, but I know we definitely have at least a couple hundred students, I believe. And I'm more familiar with upper div. I've been recently taking a few, and those are usually around, I'd say 100 to 200 students each. But then some of the more popular ones, I believe, like some of the required ones that everyone has to take can go up to about 300, I believe. I believe like CS 180 was 300 students this quarter. And yeah, so the class sizes are fairly large, 200, 300 each. Maybe Tina can add to that.
Okay, Tina?
Yeah. For the lower divs, well, we're also capped in terms of like how big our lecture halls are. So I think the largest one for lower div was maybe 300, maybe not even reaching 400. So I think that's the largest I've seen before. And that's just because like the room is not big enough. So they had to split it between two professors and have different class times for that. But nothing too big above that.
Okay, well, okay, then let's listen to the Berkeley students. How big is your class size, Juna?
Okay, yeah. So especially for our lower div classes, they're pretty huge. I think one of my classes had around 1,000 students, and like we're not really limited by like, I guess, classroom size, because people know that like some people eventually will stop showing up because lectures are broadcasted online, and or you have like you can access the videos. So some people just don't go and they just watch the videos at home. But I think another reason why some of the classes are like so big is because computer science is one of the biggest majors at Berkeley. And then also our lower division classes are kind of, I'd say, like notorious, I guess, a little bit, like among other majors. So there are some seniors who will just take like the CS lower division classes for like the Berkeley experience. So that's a little bit of the reason why so many people like just go and take the CS lower division classes. But a lot of the times, like class sizes won't really affect anything major, because you still have your small discussion, like little sections, and those are usually around 20-ish people with a UGSI. And so those times you can just get a little more one-to-one, like I guess feedback or help if that's what you want. And there's also like there's basically a lot of resources if you like need it. And so if like anybody is concerned about like class sizes, it's not that bad, and it gets a lot smaller when you get to the upper division courses.
Okay, okay, thank you, Juna. Mike, you want to comment on the DS and also the upper division class size?
Yeah, actually, most of my upper divs were CS classes because there's so much overlap. For upper div, I think is typically like less than 500, maybe like 300 or 400, which is still pretty big, but don't worry, you still have like discussions and labs even in the upper divs.
Okay, I see. Okay, sounds like the Berkeley upper division class is even bigger than the UCLA lower division. Okay, so let's listen now to Amber. And what's your class size? We're envious now.
Yeah, I'd say probably similar numbers. So for all the lower div classes, definitely like 200, 300 or more, okay. Just because it's also really popular. Stanford has like a huge CS community scene. I actually think I heard that like 60% of Stanford students take the first CS level, like 106A. So it's definitely really popular. And then like, I'd say somewhere in the middle there, you'd get classes around 200 or so, just for like people who are studying the major more seriously, because the lower div classes are inflated by other people who aren't even majoring in CS, but would like to have a little knowledge on it. And then for like very upper div, I'd say, I'm not too sure for every class, but I'd say a lot less, maybe like 100 or so, just because it gets pretty specialized after you get all your core classes done. And like the others have said, we also have discussions and labs that are more like 10 to 20 people, even in the lower div classes. So it's not really too big of a deal.
Okay, thank you, Amber. And Caitlin, how about UCSD? It's right next to my house, UCSD.
Yeah, for our lower division classes, we also get a really big number for class size. It also ranges anywhere between like 200, 300, especially for really intro classes. And we're normally limited by classroom sizes. So we try not to go above whatever the classroom can accommodate. And I know we already use all the biggest classrooms for our CS under division. For upper division, it really depends. There are some really, really big ones, and then there are ones that are more project-based, ones that are more compact, and those are limited to maybe like 50 students. And for the really, really big ones, it can also go up to 200. And because our classes are in so high demand for even non-CS or non-engineering students, we have this system where we, the school tries to make sure CS students will be able to enroll in their required classes to graduate. So they have this time frame where CS students are able to enroll in the classes beforehand, before all other majors get to join the class if they're interested, just to protect, CS majors and make sure they're able to graduate in time because they meet all the requirements. For UCSD, it's not uncommon for engineers to take 5 years to graduate, just because how difficult classes can be, and normally students don't want to overload themselves with many, many difficult classes, especially when you're a senior.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, do you know the percentage? 10, 15% graduate within 5 years, or half?
Less than half for sure, but I know a good handful of students who choose to do the 15. So I don't know the exact number, unfortunately, but I would say it's not uncommon at all.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Okay, how about Tiger and Tina? What's your view about UCLA students? How many years on average? 4 years, 5 years?
Okay, I guess I can start again. I think I'd say generally it is 4 years, though I think 5 years or around 5 years is definitely not unheard of. I just did a quick Google search. It says 68% get a bachelor's degree within 4 years, and then 88 get it within 5 years. So it's not super uncommon, but I would say it's definitely very, very possible to graduate within 4, maybe even less, depending on how much AP credit you've gotten. So I know, like, if you came from CCA or other high schools nearby, you probably have quite a bit of AP credit that will definitely help you a lot. I personally got to skip like 7 classes or something from my AP credit, which is really nice. And I can very easily graduate within 4. So yeah,
That's
I think
great. Tina, any comments about UCLA?
Yeah, exactly as Tigan said, it's I think it's very reasonable to graduate within 4 years, although some people could take 5 if they want to take it much more relaxed. As for me, I also came in with a lot of units. So if I really wanted to, I could graduate in 3 years, but personally, I want to explore other classes. I don't want to rush myself. So right now I'm on pace to take only 3 classes a quarter and graduate within 4 years. So I'm taking like a very relaxed schedule basically. And that's because of the AP credits that I came in with.
Question with Mike first. You already graduated. How many years did you take?
4 years.
4
and
years.
Then I think you're right about Berkeley getting through students pretty quickly, because I just checked, and then the 4-year graduation rate is 76%.
Okay.
And then
okay, I see.
Yeah, I only knew one super senior, and then I think everyone else graduated in either 3 or 4 years.
Yes, yeah, Berkeley, that's an advantage at Berkeley for some reason. Okay, and you got your major and you got your minor. Okay, that's great. And Juna, any other to add to Berkeley?
Yeah, I think it's like, while it's not common for like people to take 5 years, it's definitely not unheard of. Like, I feel like everybody will know at least one person who's taken 5 years. But I think something else to add is that, like, it's not like super hard to finish all of your requirements. I'm double majoring, and although like my second major, which is cog sci, has a lot of overlap with CS, I think I can comfortably finish both majors in 4 years. Like when I was coming up with my 4-year plan, for the last few semesters, I was only taking like one class from each major, and I was trying to figure out what other classes to like get above the minimum unit cap. So it's definitely doable even for like double majoring. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. How about Amber, Stanford? 4 years, 5 years, 3 years?
Yeah, I definitely think it's very doable to do it in, I think most people still just do it in 4 years, just because like how Tina mentioned, you want to take your time and take as many classes. You can even take all the cool classes you possibly could, so, might not make the best of it. And like, I think there is a little bit of planning that you need to do, just because the paths to like take your core classes, and then those are requirements for the next set of classes, and then so on and so forth. So you do need to kind of plan so that you're taking the core classes earlier on in the year. Otherwise, it might get a little bit difficult. But other than that, I think it's pretty comfortable. I'm almost done with most of my major requirements by the end of my junior year, and I think I'll be set. So yeah, and also I'm planning on taking, like I know a lot of other students are, the co-term program where you spend another year to do even more courses and some research to get your master's early. So that's also another option that a lot of students take, and that'll end up being 5 years, but with your master's. So.
Okay, can we do a 5-year program at UCSD, just like what Amber described?
Yeah, we normally call it BSMS. We just call it BSMS, and I think it's possible for almost any engineering major to do that at UCSD. I have to double check, but definitely doable for CS and CE majors, and even Math CS majors, where you do a 5-year program and get both your CS and MS.
Okay, so for that, the same 5-year UCLA, do you guys know about it, Taigen and Tina?
Yeah, there is one at UCLA. I believe the requirements are a little bit difficult, but it's like, I think above like a 3.5 GPA for some like major classes, but there is a 5-year program.
Okay, that's great, yeah. So now let's switch to the other popular one. One question is, most people want to hear, how difficult is your program? Are you really struggling or cruise control? Okay, I'm gonna start with Taigen, always. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So I think this has a lot to do with the fact that I was able to come in with a lot of credit already. But because I'm sort of like in the same boat as Tina, where I've been taking pretty relaxed schedules, I've been doing about 3 classes every quarter, and I'm on track to graduate. I'd say overall, it's pretty doable, but I would definitely not say it is easy at all. And I think most people would definitely agree. So coming from CCA, I think CCA prepared me very well, but I do think UCLA is definitely a tier above CCA, even CCA in terms of difficulty. There are some CS classes that are basically free A's, but a lot of the upper divs are very notoriously difficult. Yeah, but I think overall it's pretty manageable. I'm still able to like relax and have free time for myself pretty much every quarter. So I think it's overall pretty doable, but definitely not very easy.
Okay, I see. How about Tina?
Personally, UCLA does really well in having a good work-life balance. So I love being involved in a lot of organizations on campus, and I definitely do have a lot of free time to explore other interests. So the classes are very manageable, but as Saigen said, they're not super easy. So as a high school student coming from a very competitive high school, I thought I would be very well prepared, but everyone at UCLA is the top of their high school. So you're competing against everyone is really talented and works really hard. But I will say that the culture at UCLA I found is really helpful. Everyone's very supportive. So if you need any help, students are more than happy to help you out. But overall, it's very manageable, I feel.
Juna,
But yeah, I think a lot of this depends on the classes that you are taking because there are so many people that are applying to get into the CS major at Berkeley. It's like it's a pretty common sentiment that some of the lower division courses are even harder than some of the upper division ones. So it's really based on courses. Like one of the lower division courses that you have to take in order to declare is pretty notoriously hard. And I guess it's like a way to weed out some people. But there are also like pretty relaxed upper division courses. So it's like basically how you balance your courses within your schedule. Because there are both like easy, or not really easy, but like easier and a lot harder upper division courses too. So I think it's just a matter of figuring out which courses are commonly thought of as not as time consuming or difficult conceptually, and which courses are, and then putting them in your schedule so that you're not overwhelmed. Yeah, I think
Okay.
overall it's like not too difficult, really.
Okay, Mike, and so the question was the same thing, but it's more about the efforts at CCA. It's very competitive. #1 public school in California, like Lowell, right? Like a gun. Okay, compared to like it's more efforts that you have to spend at CCA or around the same?
It's actually about balancing the efforts you put in at CCA versus putting it in at Berkeley, because there's a trade-off. If you take like every AP class at CCA, then you might get to skip like 5 or 6 classes at Berkeley, and then that really helps you like getting your schedule relaxed enough so that you can graduate in time. So I think the schedule is manageable.
Okay, I got it. How about Stanford?
Yeah, and I think I forgot to mention this earlier, but just as far as AP credit goes, I took the 2 AP CS classes, but it doesn't really count as credit for Stanford, so it doesn't really make a difference. The only really relevance it has is that if you have some really basic programming experience before coming into the school, you can probably just comfortably skip the very first level of CS classes. And for me, since I took those classes, I could, but you don't even have to do that if you have sufficient experience. But yeah, as far as difficulty, like I mentioned, the earlier classes that you can kind of skip with basic programming, they're pretty easy in the sense of that Stanford is really like encouraging of everyone to take that CS class for that big CS community. But other than that, like the others have said, I'd say it's definitely manageable, but the content in classes are still pretty difficult, especially some of the upper div classes that are notoriously hard. And I think the most important thing I would say is that if you just find a good group of people to work with and take the classes together with, that will be the most helpful resource. And also just going to office hours and engaging with the class as much as you can. It's very supportive. So if you know how to reach out, then you'll probably be fine, but it definitely requires a lot of work. So.
Amber and Caitlin, UCSD. So how difficult? You come from an international background. I would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so I went to a local school in Taiwan, Taipei, and so we don't have anything like APs at all, and I didn't even have SAT prep in my school. I had to like go take the SAT outside of my school, and so when I went to UCSD, even though I did have like a very solid like math background, definitely it was a struggle for me in the beginning. I did have to spend a lot of time in office hours and with, you know, the professor's office hours or going to TA to office hours. But in terms of difficulty, I think honestly it comes down to several things. Number one, who is your professor? A lot of times if I find a class extremely difficult, it might be not because the professor is bad, but it's just that his or her teaching style doesn't match up to my preferred learning style. And in those cases, I will just have to go find a TA who I know I can rely on, or I know has a good way of explaining things to me, and really like help, get help from them. And another factor in terms of how difficult something can be for me is how many other things am I also doing outside of academic work. I personally spent a lot of time outside of academics doing things like tutoring for other CS classes, and a lot of time in a student org at UCSD. I spent a lot of time in the Engineering Student Council. So a lot of it, I think, comes down to these two things, you know, what is your learning style? Is it compatible with the professor? And number two, what is your schedule like? How much time do you have, and can you put into learning this new thing that you've never learned before? And honestly, as long as you're willing, you know, this was kind of echoed in the previous answers, but as long as you're willing to really ask for help, there are resources, people are going to be willing to help you. And at the end of the day, if you're finding something really, really hard to understand, people will know, people will help you, and you're not alone. And so I think, yeah, it can be difficult, but you really just have to know what to do to unblock yourself when you feel stuck. And I think that's like the key to managing difficult situations and learning hard things.
I believe the question was the average GPA, and I would probably say that the average GPA would probably be around a 3.0, possibly a little less, but it's difficult because I don't have a very large sample size, but I heard the general consensus is around 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
I also don't really know the average, but I think for like a GPA that's considered good is above a 3.0, or like really good for grad school to be competitive, it's around a 3.5. But also if you are looking into internships and whatnot, I think a large majority of those don't care too much about GPA. So I think it shouldn't be something to stress over too much, especially like for me coming from high school into college. I mean, I got almost straight A's in high school. Like I worked really hard, and then coming to college, it was kind of a shock to get like a B, but it's very normal. So yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's I think the students need to hear. Okay, and Mike, you've gone through 4 years. What's your perspective on the GPA? Yeah.
The GPA situation is actually pretty weird because Berkeley is kind of known for GPA deflation, but I just checked figures and they don't look that low. So for ECS, the average is 3.46. For CS, it's 3.53, and for DS, it's 3.24. Those are the most recent graduating classes.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know the exact statistics either, but I'd say around probably the same benchmark and maybe a little bit higher. Stanford does have a bit of grade inflation, so there is that. So I'd say 3.0 or maybe like 3.5. Right now my GPA is pretty high just because of the classes I've taken, and again, inflation helps a little bit. But most things will know that that's the case and take that into account. So kind of like Tina said, I don't think it's really too relevant, other than just making sure you stay above the benchmark for like grad school and stuff.
And Caitlin, so now you're working at Facebook. Do you think your GPA really play a big role for you to enter Facebook to get a job there?
To answer the first part of the question, what is the average GPA at UCSD like? I know the average GPA at the whole school UCSD is 3.3. I don't know a specific GPA average for CS students, but I imagine it would be lower than the whole average. So I would say, yeah, around maybe 3.0 or lower. I wouldn't be surprised. And for me personally, I don't think my GPA played a big part in my internship. When I got accepted for an internship at Facebook. I have a 3.4. I graduated with a 3.4 at UCSC, and I don't think, from what I've heard from my friends, I don't think GPA plays a really, really big part in the job hunt at all. As long as you have like a 3.0 and above, honestly, employers don't really mind, because you're not there to, you know, get good grades at your work anyway. You're there to like do work. So I don't think they really care about that part as much.
And so now we delve into going back to, you are already in the industry. So, and I want to talk a little bit about the internship. When did you start first interning, and first year, second year? And can you share a little bit of paths for all the enrolled students, accept students, and new students for the career paths and for the industrial job?
Yeah, sure. When I started applying freshman year, honestly, and I started going to career fairs as a freshman, which normally people tell you not to do it because they're like, no one wants to talk to freshman students, no one's going to give you an internship. But I did it anyway because I thought the experience would be valuable, just learning how to talk to recruiters and how to write up a resume, how to dress properly. I just liked the idea of getting that exposure and gaining experience there. So I started going as a freshman. Obviously, I didn't get any internship offers my freshman year, but I was pretty lucky to start getting internship offers my sophomore year through like networking really hard and going to more career fair events. I really, really recommend students to take advantage of on-campus career fairs because those will get you in the door for interviews more than you applying to like 300 companies online. Because when you talk to someone in real life, they know you're a real person and they know what you look like and what your composture and what you're probably like as a person, and you're not just like another digital transaction to them online. So students definitely take advantage of that.
For my first year, I didn't really focus on getting an internship. I mostly wanted to focus on declaring CS. So I just took the one notorious class that like everybody thinks is hard over the summer. And then, yeah, so I just focused on that, and then I was able to declare. And then this year I was able to start applying as a declared CS major, which I think helped a lot in me finding my summer internship this summer.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Amber?
Yeah, I think I can really just echo what everyone else has said. Personally, I didn't start applying super early, which I think you definitely should. So I'm not recommending you do that. But I focused on my freshman year, mainly just trying to get a feel around the school and figure out what specifically I wanted to study so that I could apply to more relevant industries. And then sophomore year is about when you start applying to some more serious internships. I think someone in chat talked about interning in high school. I just wanted to note that I don't really think that's necessary, and I don't think you can do like any super like, I don't want to say meaningful, but like internships usually are kind of like a full-time experience, I'd say. So I don't think you can really do anything huge in high school.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessary.
And Mike, how about you? And you help contribute the projects and the curriculum on the data science side, working with Mr. Morrow. And thank you. And what's your view? You're going to graduate school. Do you care about internship, or you're more in the STEM educational field? Yeah, I would love to hear your view.
As for college internships, I would definitely say start no later than the summer of your sophomore year.
Okay.
Because yeah, I didn't get my first internship until the summer afterwards, so summer my junior year, and it's like honestly kind of late.
Okay.
And yeah, just like go career fairs and talk to people about what they're doing, and it'll honestly help you a lot, like through your second half college and also after college.
Tina, do you want to chime on that one?
Yeah, sure. So during high school, I didn't do like an internship, like an industry internship. I did a sort of research camp at UCSD, but to be honest, I didn't find it super helpful. I don't think I learned much from it. My first year at college, I did a little bit of applying to internship, but not anything too serious. And then COVID happened, and then I didn't get any offers. But I ended up just taking a class over the summer, and I also had a part-time job where I tutored CS students. And then I also just like worked on a personal website. So that's what I did first year summer. And then this summer, I was actually planning on studying abroad, but then that of course got canceled because COVID as well. So I got really lucky and I was applying a little bit, and I am going to be interning at Amazon this summer.
Okay, well, congratulations. That's great. How about Taigen?
Yeah, so in terms of internships, I would definitely recommend starting freshman year as well. And I think something that people haven't touched on is that you have to apply very, very early if you want a very good chance. So you need to start like before school even starts. Like a lot of people are already starting like around August, October, September. Around that time is like a super heavy time for recruiting. A lot of big companies will like be done really quickly. So if you start very late, yeah, it'll be very difficult to find a position. So definitely start early. And in terms of freshman year, don't expect too much. I think the vast majority of people do not find an internship the freshman year, but it is definitely not unheard of. One thing that I didn't know as a freshman is that there are actually lots of internships at very good companies that only accept like freshmen and sophomore. They're targeted for that. So if you're a freshman, you have a very good chance. Well, not a very good chance because you're still competing with really, really smart people. So it's still really super competitive. But it might give you a slightly better chance. So there are opportunities at like Uber, Microsoft, Google. I know they all have internships specifically for lower graded students. And for me, I was able to get an internship as well over the summer. And I think I was very lucky because I applied to probably hundreds as well. I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat where you really have to, it's really a very time consuming process. You have to start early, and you definitely have to drop off like hundreds and hundreds of resumes off at online places, online websites. And in terms of career fair, I do think those are worth going to. I personally haven't had much success with career fairs. I've gotten some interviews, but never really passed the first phase for those. But I do know people definitely have success stories with those as well. So would definitely recommend going to those as well. And I feel like you know, everyone here has some really great internships, but honestly, if you don't get one, I feel like it's not super uncommon either not to get one your sophomore year as well. I think I know quite a few people who just did not get lucky or did not apply early enough, and I think that's okay. I was also in the same boat as Tina, where in my first freshman year, I took a couple classes as well to knock those off. And I think that's a pretty good idea to do as well. It'll definitely help you out during the school year. You can take a lighter load. So, and you can still keep busy by preparing, you know, working on projects, practicing your coding skills. So I don't think it's a complete waste of time if you don't find an internship as well. And I personally was very fortunate. I only got like one offer, and it was it was like a software position that I feel like not a lot of people applied to. So I personally think that I am very fortunate in finding it, but I think you can definitely keep yourself busy and work on meaningful things for sure, even if you don't get one.
So now I'm going to move a little bit faster about how to prepare for the, the first, like the big chunk of the questions for accepted students, but for the younger students, how to prepare, and they, they're high school students, how to prepare for CSCE. So Juna, I want to ask you, like, did you really spend a lot of time prepare for CSCE?
Okay, yeah. So in high school, I did take AP CS, and so I already had a little bit of CS knowledge going in. And then over the summer, since I found out that like the very first introductory course that I was going to be taking was in Python, and I didn't know Python at the time, I just took like a small course to learn a little bit more about Python, but I definitely don't think that it's necessary. There's a lot of people who come into Berkeley, they don't know what they want to do, they decide they want to try out CS, and they're still able to like declare. And so I think that's a little bit of the case with my roommate too. She came in and she hadn't taken any like summer courses for like programming or anything, and she was still able to declare. It's not like uncommon for people to do that, so it's definitely not necessary to like start grinding it out like the summer that you graduate. But if you're willing to and if you want to, it will help you in the long run, but it's definitely like up to what you want to do.
Okay, I see. Caitlin, how about you? What do you think? Did you do a lot of stuff with CS when you were in Taiwan in high school?
I didn't do a lot of CS stuff in high school, to be really honest. I probably did mess around with like some HTML and like try to build a website, but I didn't really know much about the foundational concepts in computer science in my first year of college. And I think that was and I also didn't take any APs. So I think that was a big reason that my first two quarters at UCSD were, a bit harder for me, I would say. But I think most professors know that, there are going to be a lot of different kids from a lot of different backgrounds in lower division classes, and most professors are prepared for that, and therefore they do try to go slower and more in depth, especially in lower division classes, is what I've noticed. And they really try to hold your hand in like the beginning to adjust and accommodate for people of all different backgrounds and levels of understanding, which I have been really appreciative of.
So I think it's a little hard to say because there's not really, I know it's kind of cliche to say this, but like there's not really a golden formula. And I kind of mentioned this in chat just now, but I think it's most important to just find a few things that you're like genuinely passionate about and then be able to talk about them in your application. For me, I was never one of those extremely hardcore CS students ever since high school. I had like some moderate programming experience, but one thing that I was really interested in is I'm really interested into the creative arts and writing and language. So I talked about how I might possibly be studying natural language processing in CS and just kind of combining the interdisciplinary fields. And obviously that's not for everyone. And there's a lot of people who are like my roommate who's studying pure CS and has just done a lot of coding and hackathons. So it just kind of depends on where your passions lie and being able to talk about that. And also for Stanford's application in particular, unless they've changed it, I think I recall like it's not a lot of huge essay questions other than like your main one. And it's just like little questions talking about like little interests that you have, like what's your favorite books, or like what kind of things do you like to do in your spare time. And so I think Stanford in particular really places a lot of importance on your character and showing that you have like a real soul behind what you're doing and not necessarily the specific giant accomplishments that you've done. And as for GPA, I did have a very high GPA though. And I think it was just a straight 4.0 or something, just because it wasn't too difficult at my high school. And that's the main reason I took APs, not really for impressing the Stanford people who are reading my application, recruiters and stuff. I don't think they really care about the specific APs, but it was just helpful to maintain my GPA.
I feel like I just grinded the APs, but there are other things I did too. And I think one of the strongest points I had when I applied was my essay. So your essay, you want to talk about your passions, even if they're hobbies like not directly related to your major. You just want to talk about them and be passionate, and then also have like plenty of people go over your essay.
So I just took AP Computer Science my sophomore year, but other than that, I didn't have much coding experience at all. I did participate in a local hackathon, but that was just like for one day and I didn't really do much. It was just kind of for fun. But in high school, I was very competitive academically, so I took a lot of difficult classes. But then I think probably the thing that stood out for me was I was really involved in a lot of organizations. So I would really recommend just follow what you like to do, because I wasn't a very stereotypical just like CS student. I participated in speech and debate. I participated in theater, which is like not, very STEM at all. But I just explore these different interests because I found them very fulfilling for me. And so even in my college applications, I talked about theater too. And I was able to just be like more of a human and not just, I don't know, like that's just kind of who I am. So I just followed my own path basically.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a similar boat again. I personally didn't do a ton of coding. I believe the main extracurricular that I was involved with was FRC robotics. So I was on the robotics team for my school, and I think that was a really great experience. So I think I would agree that just the most important thing is that you're participating. It's important to participate in some activity, but if you're going to participate in an activity, you might as well make it something that you actually really enjoy, and it's something that you like. And then, that'll definitely show colleges that, you have passions and you're willing to do extra work to, work on those. And I would say GPA is probably definitely really important. And personally, I think that my GPA and like test scores were probably the main reason that I was able to get into a lot of the UCs. I think they're definitely really important. So yeah, definitely don't slack off on school as well, and try to maintain a balance between doing extracurriculars and maintaining your GPA.
Have you done any competition that make you standing out, or you can live a normal student life? You don't have to be a competition winner. So I want to start with Caitlin, international, Taiwan. Did you do a lot of competition there?
I don't think I did anything like super noteworthy competition-wise in high school or in college. In high school, I did participate in Model UN a lot, which is really, really different from what I ended up studying. And in college, I did participate in things like hackathons, and I did win some prizes, but they weren't like national level hackathons. And there was more like regional ones and like small hackathons. I would say making yourself standing out. I'm really just going to echo what everyone else has said so far. Really find what you're passionate about and just put all of your effort and time into it. And I think everyone will be able to see, your passion for it, and you will become a glowing candidate because of that to them, to your future employers or your future school admissions officer. They will see your passion, and I think that's what most people want to see. So I didn't really participate in any competitions. I did do a lot of engineering student council work. I put in so much work there throughout my 4 years of college, and I would say that's what really helped me stand out when I was applying to internships. My engineering student council work and tutoring, those two things were like a really, really big highlight in my college career. And it's not applicable to everyone because not everyone enjoys these things, but really just finding what you want to do, put a lot of effort in there, and people will recognize that.
Didn't do any competitions whatsoever.
Okay.
Well, there's the PSAT, and they're like, you get to the top certain percent, you get like scholarship or some kind of award, but that was the only one that I got.
Same competition?
I did not do any academic sort of competition. The only thing I really did was dance competitions, which I guess could count as an extracurricular, but nothing really academic related. So yeah.
Okay, and the Tiger and Tina competition in high school.
Yeah, so I personally did not do any competitions at all. So I did participate in FRC robotics, which was technically in competition, but I would say that that experience was less about the competition and more about learning to work as a team and just working on something that we were all really interested in.
Okay, that's great. And Tina?
Yeah, I didn't do any like international, national competitions. The most I did was speech and debate, which was like regional. And then I did like the hackathon, but that was like local as well. So nothing big.
Yeah.
So yeah, just basically just find what you're passionate about, and you know you should yeah, don't do work just purely for getting into college. I know I was definitely motivated to do work based on that as well, but it's definitely more important to find what you're really interested in, and so that you know it can act as that first step towards finding what you really want to do for the rest of your life.
Okay, that's great.
Do what makes you happy and come to UCLA.
Okay, well,
I'd probably just say don't be too pressured. Make sure to remember to have fun in college. That's what college is like, a lot of college is about. And make a lot of friends. They will be helpful in your classes.
Amber.
Yeah, just echoing what everyone else says. Don't get tunnel vision. You know, no one thing is the end of the road or everything that matters. And yeah, just enjoy your experience and maybe start a personal project. Find what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I would say be open to new opportunities. Don't be scared to try new things. Really, just you're so young. Don't be scared to try things at all. Don't be scared to go to a professor's office hours. Don't be scared to raise your hand and ask a question. Don't be scared to talk to the person next to you. Be open to trying every single thing you can. I miss college. I love college, and I wish there were so many things that I still want to try but never got to. So try and live it to your fullest.
That's great.
Forget your social life, because making friends will really help you in the classes and also opportunities, but also gives you something to look forward to. Like you want to have something to look forward to at each stage in college. That way you won't get lost.